See, in society, like, they want you to be good enough for a lot of things. Good enough for marriage, good enough for a relationship, good enough boyfriend, good enough husband, good enough father, good enough coworker, good enough. That word gets thrown around like love, good enough. It's a bullshit word, good enough. Basically, you only got to be good enough for right now. That's the truth, actually. You only got to be good enough for right now and maybe what's going to happen in about 8 hours. And I can tell you in about 8 hours, I'll be back at work, killing it, making more money. But this is good enough shit for everything. Good enough to dance with chicks. Good enough to fucking impress chicks. Good enough to marry, you know. Are you good enough for some chick that decides if you're good enough for her? Fuck all that, man. Fuck that bullshit. That's bullshit, man. Good enough for what? As a man, you only got to be good enough for you. That's it. Good enough for you and your situation that you're in, that the man is in. You know, your home is where you lay your hat. You know, you're good enough at work. You're good enough at home. At your home that you pay for, you're good enough. You don't need any validation from anybody else. You don't need validation from your coworkers. You don't need validation from women. You don't need validation from God or your church. Any of that bullshit. You don't need it. Good enough for what? Good enough for who? Good enough for when? I'm good enough for me. I'm good enough for in the next 8 hours. And I'm good enough for what I need to do. So I'm good enough. I seek validation out of myself. And I find validation inside myself. And that's MGTOW. Good enough.